Okay, this is a TFT for a school age programs, school age program structure, which includes the schedules and transitions. I'm going to show it this way so we can see the presenter notes as well. Here, make sure that when you introduce yourself to your participants, you can edit this and type in your name. And these are the materials that you will be needing for this face-to-face training. So just make sure to either get yourself ready before you present this for the first time, or if there is a kit already made at the office, to pick up the kit. For right now, I recommend creating your own kit. Most of these items we already have and have been issued already. The handouts that you will need for this, do you see the handout? Yes, okay, so this is the handout that you will print double-sided, and this will be the only thing that you will bring in to pass out to your participants. So it is important to know how many you're going to be having attending, so therefore you know how much to print. So just double-sided. You will also need to make a copy and print items number 36 and 37 of your Sakers U scale. I recommend laminating them so you can wipe them off and sanitize them after they're used. You are also welcome to use sheet protectors, plastic sheet protectors, so you can also do the same. It's just to prevent printing those pages every time you train, and you can reuse them. Print them on cardstock paper, but still use that sheet protector so they can be sanitized afterwards. Dry erase markers, Post-it notes, the presentation itself, make sure that you do call ahead wherever you're going to be presenting to make sure that you have access to a projector and that the projector, it's big enough for all your participants for the size of the classroom, or if you need to check out a projector from the main office to also get that situated. You will also need to make sure that there's audio and speakers for some of the videos that you will be presenting, and your signing sheet, and the yes and no signs or paper plates. It can be as easy as just a circle with green on the front that says yes and red on the back that says no. You can do paper plates, or you can be creative. You're going to have one of them hopefully per participant. And if there are too many participants, let's say you have 20 of them and you can't make 20 of them, then you can also change that to, I don't know, 2 hands up for yes and 1 hand up for no, or it just be creative for that. That is taking the place of a poll that we used to have as a webinar. And so then we will move on to the introduction, the housekeeping. And every time you see this logo right here with the little handouts, that means that you're going to be referring to the handout you are providing your participants. But just as some housekeeping, remind participants that they should be registered in Georgia PDS to take this training, and remind them of their participation. It is important for them to participate, collaborate, and share their experiences, knowledge, and be active participants of this training in order to get credit. And point out the facility, the needs, any needs that they might have, bathrooms, get to know your area where you're going to be training. That way you can guide them, safety exits, telephone calls. You have a lot of parents that go and take those trainings, teacher parents, that if their child calls, they're going to take that call. So just ask them that if they need to take a phone call, to please step out and do so quietly and return as soon as possible. But and I added here the 4 agreements just to remind them that although this is not a PLC in a way, but this is something that we do need to keep in mind, to be mindful of what we say and what we share with the group, to not take anything personal, because perception is everything, you know, something one person might say might be taken the wrong way by another person. So just remind them that we are all here for the best of children. So to just make the best assumption of everyone that we are trying to help children. So don't just make any negative assumptions and to always do your best. So just go over the 4 agreements and basically behave and be respectful with everyone. These are the objectives. You will read the objectives and let them know what is it that you will be covering today. And I still need to remove this. Okay, so it's the same objectives as the webinar. We will recognize the characteristics of effective schedules and provide children with predictable events, access to activities and community resources. We will also organize your day to create a schedule that meets the child's basic needs and access to recreational activities. And we'll also review strategies for easing the transitions from school to the program and create an action plan for your program. So after reviewing the objectives, that's when you start going into the meat of the training. There's a lot of information in there. So I do recommend that you print out the presenter notes. And of course, you can read what's on the board, but just go by your notes and share that information to them. You know, what is a quality program, and also how, you know, we can get their program to grow into a quality program, or identify it if it's already a quality program, what things they need to continue working on, and also make sure that the new staff also knows to implement it in their program. And then we move on to the why. Why are schedules needed? You know, just this can be an open discussion with your group. Ask them, why do you think schedules are needed? How do they help you in the classroom? And, you know, those are just some speaker notes where if no one is talking, you can provide some of that information to them. What is the difference between a schedule and a routine? And then the definition is there. Also, the resources attached there, or where that information came from. And on this slide is where we first start using the yes and no signs. You can also create your own Kahoot game. And if everyone has a cell phone in there with them, you can use a Kahoot and just share the screen, the answers to it. So it depends on if you're familiar with using Kahoot, but also if your participants have a cell phone or an electronic device where they can use Kahoot. So just kind of see and feel and get a feeling about it, and or do both. You know, this is very flexible on what device you use to get your response. But as long as you cover the questions, you're going to ask them, like, does your program follow a specific routine? Is there a routine in your program already set up? Yes or no? Does your program have a written schedule? Yes or no? And is this schedule posted and easy to find? Because yes, there is a written schedule somewhere, you know, somewhere in here it is, but is it easy to find? Can parents see it? Can children see it? Can other staff see it? So you will get your answers based on that, and tally up the answers, or just go over, you know, answer the questions, you know, define again what's a routine, define again what's a schedule, and the importance of having those schedules posted, not just for staff to know what's going on, but also parents might want to be informed. We want to see them when we come into the program. It will help us facilitate their TA as well. So just go over that for a couple minutes. And here's more of just reading the information of the importance of schedules and routines. and just kind of go over those bullet points that you can use when you're answering these questions, but you can also just make sure to cover that in there. More information, just recognizing characteristics of effective schedules. This is the first objective. And when you present it, I think it, okay, it doesn't. Just read over the bold sections in here, such as an array of activities. Make sure to emphasize those things because that's what's going to affect them on their scoring later on. If they have enough activities for all the children to use for a good amount of time, community resources to a school age program, I mean access to the library, access to a computer room, some gardening center, maybe the gym, playground area, and those type of things. And waiting times, you know, although it's not scored just like the ITERs or the Eckert scales or the Ficker scales, waiting times are also important to keep in mind. We don't want to have them be too long. And on the next slide, you go over the scoring system because they're going to use the scale to evaluate themselves. So you want to explain how the scoring system works, with a 1 and a 2 being inadequate, and we don't want to be there, a minimal 3 and 4, and good on a 5 and a 6, but super on a 7. So our goal is to try to get as far on the green as possible. So just in case we do have some that fall under the minimal, that those scores will average out. So here you will give them the items number 36 and 37. And I do recommend that you print both sections of it, the scoring scale with the clarification notes, and pass them out. Give them 3 to 5 minutes to look at the pages. And if it's laminated, they can use a dry erase marker to check off where they're at. They can also use a crayon or anything that you can easily erase out of it. And to just kind of self-reflect and score on themselves. This will be on the big screen for item number 36, which is the schedule. And just go column by column and help them reflect on what they score themselves with. So just let them know we don't want to fall under the 1s at all. So let's try to see if any of the 3s we can get to grow to the 5s, and just explain to them the scoring in there. Don't forget to go into the notes for clarification and also the questions, because for the Sakers scale, they do have an interview, and they will be asked these questions right here if the observers don't see this taking place. Again, same for number 37, which is free play. And let's see. Making sure to go over the top of the scale and the bottom with the questions and the notes for clarification, and just ask them, you know, how did you do? Do you think you are where you want to be? If not, what's your goal? And what resources do you need? What coaching do you need? What assistance do you need to make sure that you do get to achieve your goal? It might be a little bit hard to do this last 2 slides with the scale if you have participants who have not yet been in their program, who have not yet been in the classroom, that are probably doing pre-service or pre-training before they start, and they have not been in a school age program before. So just ask them to, if they have not been in a program or they don't know how their program looks or runs, ask them where they would like to be at and how they think they will get there. So hypothetically, or to reflect on a past experience from a program they had previously been at, and to create a goal based on that. If they were at a great program that ran very efficiently and they scored themselves well on the reflection part, then you know what worked well there that you want to make sure that you implement in your new program or in this new employment. So after reflecting on the scales and reflecting on access and activities for the children in there, we are going to go to help them create or come up with a type of schedule. So on this one, you would just go over some of the speaker notes with talking to them about the different types of schedules. There are full day program schedules. There are also other schedules that are just before school and just after school, and what kind of anchors do all of those programs have. No matter what program you have, there's always going to be an anchor. So some of the anchors that possibly happen are here on the presenter's notes. It can be meals, visitors, any activities that are previously scheduled, meal times, because you have to go by the cafeteria schedule, or you know, there are different types of schedule. You can ask them to give you ideas on anchors. Those are just things that you can't change, that you have to keep in the schedule at a certain time. So when creating a schedule, you write down those times just because you have no control on when those times happen. And so just with that in mind, we also are considering other things when planning a schedule, like what activities and experiences are going to be planned, when are those activities and experiences and routines will happen, where are they going to happen, and who's going to be in charge. And so just read through this. You can ask for a volunteer to read, or you know, just make sure that this information gets covered, as well as this one. So once you figure out what, when, where, who, now is going deeper on the what type of activities to add to your schedule. So those would be here are some examples. And we have seen a couple of them when visiting some of our school age programs, that you know, some of them have clubs that they go to their club time and then they come back at a different time to the program, so they need to keep track when those when those things happen, and keep track of children in attendance. I've also encountered where the parents can sign up their children to attend a cooking class, but it's only, you know, for the children who were registered previously, and those happen at a specific time. So keeping all those things in mind, it's also recommended when creating your schedule. So just go over the list, ask them if they have anything else that they will add to this list, and anything else that they will need planning. So this list basically explains what the school age program does all day, you know, like when the children are in their care. And now we are going to do a small group activity. Now with this small group activity, it's going to depend on how big the group you have is. And so you might want to split them in partners, or you might want to do groups of 3 or 4. And here you will give them 10 minutes to organize their day. So you will, depending on how big the group is, you know, you just end up with 2 different groups, then one group is going to do a full day holiday care schedule, and the other group is going to do a before and after school schedule. So hopefully you have enough that you can at least have 2 of those groups, or maybe even 2 per category. But the goal is for them that to create a schedule based on the information we just share them, keeping in mind anchors, keeping in mind all the activities and routines that they need to get done, and special activities maybe depending on their program, to come up with their schedule for their program. If they don't know yet their program, we'll come up with a hypothetical program. If you need to give them like, okay, you are group A, you're going to create a full day holiday type of child school age program. Your hours are from 8 to 4. So give them the schedule that you will need them to complete. And also for the before and after school program, if they don't currently have something that they can go based on, or an experience in their program if they haven't started yet, you can tell them, you know, your morning schedule is from 6 till 9 and your afternoon is from 3 to 6, and just to work around them. If you need to give them that hypothetical scenario, give them anchors or give them activities to keep in mind. Because you, especially at the beginning of the school year with the July and August trainings, you might have a lot of new staff. So just give them 10 minutes, and this is your halfway mark, about 1 hour into it. So of course, after those 10 minutes, it's up. You can have 10 to 15 minutes, depending on the size of the group, to share. They can share by typical stand up in front of the class and share with us, or just where you're at, talk to us about your schedule and your times, and ask them about their anchors, ask them what things that they have to work around, and just ask them questions to make them look with intention on their schedule, to make sure that they plan for everything and they have someone assigned basically on those duties. And just share, and depending on how big your groups are. And at that time, if you are like already way over on time, then you can just limit to, let's hear about one of each instead of hearing from everyone. So that gives you that time to catch up in a way. So next we are going to be moving on to the action plan. And this is one of the handouts that it was printed, is going to be the first page. You can ask them to reflect on the schedule that they have, because if they already have experience in their program, they most likely wrote the schedule that they know and are familiar with. If they don't, they can use this handout to reflect. So, or they can write down and copy their current schedule. So they can use this to write the schedule that you assign them, or to write what they are actually doing right now. And again, it might be a little bit more complicated if they have not been in the classroom yet, but we'll do the best we can on this. Reflect right here, write down your schedule. Real quick, ask them to write down their afternoon schedule if you're short on time. You know, when the first opens to the last child leaving, what happens? And then they're going to reflect on this. Is there a routine for setup? You know, when children arrive, are they greeted? Do they know where their belongings go? Do they wash hands? What happens during that setup routine? Meals, how are meals included in your schedule, but how are they handled? And free play, do you have this to meet your free play? And gross motor free play. Remind them that gross motor play, although it's 30 minutes, it does not start until they get there. Some programs you can open the door and they're boom, right there. Some programs have to navigate through halls and go out this door and down. It might take them 5 minutes to get to the playground area. So keeping in mind that that time is, you know, I will recommend them to meet as much of the indoor free play time, just in case they don't have enough time to meet the whole 30 minutes of other group play. Because some programs start at 4 and close at 6. And so they're very packed on time. And just a reminder in here on the table washing procedures, we tend to see less than desirable ways of cleaning tables in this program. So we need to remind them, even if you have to give it a quick run through, soapy water, wipe it off, bleach water, let it sit for 2 minutes, and then wipe off with another set of paper towels or rags. But, we all kind of have an idea on what type of things we see with this. So just reminding them that those need to be done before eating and after eating as well. Close this. Okay, so they'll get between 5 and 10 minutes on this. And on the handout, it also says my role. What is their role during that time? So it is important for them to reflect on what their role is. So for arrival time from 3 to 3:30, activity is arrival and getting ready for snack. What is my role? As a teacher, what am I doing? If you are the director, the site director, as the site director, what are you doing during that time? That way we start moving towards the delegating of duties, but we want them to think about what it is that their role is during these times. So we move on to delegating. Just have a couple minutes to talk about why is delegating important in those busy school age programs that you have so much going on with sometimes very little time. So it's important for the adults in the group to know what their roles are, how to get it done, who has what role, and how can it be made fair? Because you don't want the same person to be cleaning all the time every single day, unless that's what they love to do and they're willing to do it. How can we make this fair and that everyone has that has a fair distribution of those jobs and everyone has something going on. And then once we talk about the delegating part of the schedule, we're moving on to the next page or the backside of the action plan, which is also your transfer of learning, and give them about 10 minutes that after they have already kept that in mind of what activities, experiences, and routines will be happening in the program, when they're happening, where they're happening. We are talking now about the who. Who is going to make sure that everything in here gets done, but also who is responsible for this part of the schedule, for setup, for cleanup, for supervision on transition, supervision on the playground activities and interactions during all these things. And how will you prepare children to leave, like at the end of the day, how are they getting that done? So this will help them by planning ahead. Of course, it's a plan. It doesn't always go as written, but it will give you an idea. So when you do start on your program or when you do meet with your team, you guys have something to go by. So the second page here, it's this is an example that some groups are bigger, some have group 1, group 2, group 3, group 4, depending on the size of the program. Some of them might just be one group, where I had a program that it was just one group. All the grades were in just one group because they didn't have to divide if they had enough staff for that one group and everything ran smooth. So who is going to set up centers? You can divide them by math, literature, science, homework area. One person can set up those centers. Another person can set up blocks, art, pretend play, and quiet area. And remember, each group needs to experience all of those centers and activities. So is there a specific time? Is group 1 going to use those centers from 3:30 to 4:15, and group 2 is going to use the same place from 4:15 to 5 o'clock? How are we going to make sure that every child has access to all these centers? Or maybe each group has their own center. There are 2 math centers, one for group 1 and one for group 2. And there's 2 science centers, and there's 2 of everything, and that's okay if they have enough space. Again, that's the notes right here. I just said about access. And then who is in charge of attendance and how is that handled? I have make sure to let them know that it should not be taking too long. I timed the program one day that took 30 minutes to just check students in. And with the same size group, another program was able to take care of attendance as children came in without the necessity of having people waiting on the side or in line, and they moved very quick. So just talk about who is in charge of attendance and how is that done. Who is in charge of updating meals, schedules, allergy posters, those displays, because sometimes we might see last month or 3 months ago information, and we making sure that those are up to date. Who is in charge of washing tables before meals, washing tables after meals? So it's important for all the adults to know what role they're going to be playing, because this is like a Broadway play. There's so much happening at the same time, and everyone has a role. And again, follow the table washing procedures. I snuck it in there one more time. And here it's the schedule part again, on maybe give them space for them to consider certain times, or for them to just list what their roles are during some specific times. So this one will be again another 10 minutes for them to complete that. If you want to pair them up with people that work in the same center, or if you have the XYZ center here for school age and children present, and there's 10 staff members from that group and 5 of them work in the same group, then have them all 5 get together. That way they can start delegating their duties already. That will be in the ideal world, and hopefully you do have a couple that you're able to say, hey, you guys are from ABC Center. You guys can work together and just come up with this right here. Just in case that is not possible, then you can also send them the blank one so they can actually do it with their team once they're together. And now after that, they can send you a picture of that, or they can save it and share it with their TA as their transfer of learning. So now we are just going back to some strategies for easing the transition. So now we're moving on to transitions. We just worked on schedules, now we're working on transitions. For this one, just read some information. Like here, the green part is just the start of the sentence. So it doesn't look so heavy, just words on the screen. You will read the rest of it. So yes, the first 15 minutes in the after school program are critical. During this time, kids should be calmed down and transition into the program. Usually it's better not to rush the kids into more programming if possible. So this is basically telling them that the children come from the school day already being told what to do, where to walk, second square from the wall or whatever. No running, be quiet, sit here, sit there, eat at this time. It's a lot of pressure throughout the day. They're looking for a way to relax. So just make it possible for them to come into a welcoming environment, make eye contact, be silly with them, say their name when they walk in, find out about their day, listen to the stories, and take cues from them. Some of them might need to come in and spill everything they have been holding all day. Like, Miss Reed, today, we did this, we did that, and we went, and my mom took me to the park on the weekend, and we went and had ice cream, and I dropped my ice cream, and everything. They will try to tell you everything that they were told to be quiet during school hours. But then you might also have the opposite with other children that They just need to find a place to sit down, be quiet. They might want to put their head down, just relax, decompress, and find their center because it's been a chaotic day. So take cues from them and provide them the environments to be able to do that. And respect that there will be different transition needs. Some, again, high energy, low energy. So just read this information and just, make it, you don't have to be a robot, just, as long as this information is provided. The next one, again, is just, you can ask them to read for you, or you can read this for them or summarize it. This is just basically in strategies of managing transitions and during the program hours, what a transition is, that they're changing from one activity or experience to another, and the provider, the teachers, giving them those activities in between to transition, ways to transition with pocket games or just movement, minimizing that shh or hold a bubble, explaining them why we need them to be quiet. Hey, we are transitioning to the playground now. I want to remind you that there are teachers who are still working in their classrooms, and they will appreciate it if we are a little bit quieter. So today we're going to be mice and just walk like a mouse. If you need to talk to your neighbor, then you're going to whisper and squeak like a mouse. Or we're going to walk on clouds. And if you're too rough on a cloud, you might sink through and fall down. But let's just walk soft feet so the teachers can take their time in doing what they need to do. So explaining them why they need to be quiet is better than just saying, catch a bubble. If you talk, you're going to sit out and not have playground time, because we don't want that. So now that we have explained what transitions are and what positive transitions are, then we are going to do an activity and plan. And so there is here a sample grid that they can do on their notes paper, but they don't have to do it. What we do want to do is have them come up with transitions. They can do it in partners or a very small group, and just think of different transitions and write them on a sticky note with an activity. So my example of transitioning to playground, explain children why they need to be quiet and walk like different animals or walk in clouds. That's an example of a transition. Here it's also an example that you can use, like an arrival transition. Greet each child upon arrival, learn their name and show them that you are glad to see them, and create a chant to greet them. I'm so happy to see you today. Ebony, you're here today. I see your smile today. Just come up with anything, So have them write it on a sticky note. Once they are done, then you can ask them for one person to start the chain. So what you can do is, okay, so who had a, Linda, what was your first transition? My first transition was going to the playground. Okay, so slap it right here. Does anyone else have a playground transition? Yes, Ebony has one. Then she's going to put it right there next to on her column. Okay, so now someone else, meals transition. Okay, so she's going to slap her meals transition on the wall, and then anyone else has a meals transition, then they'll put it in there. That way we are getting all the similar ones and arranging them in order. So you can ask them to come like that. That way you don't have too much crowding in there, or depending on the size, you can just say, all right, so now time's up. We had planned for different transitions. Ask them to come up with at least 2 or 3. That way you have more than 5 transitions if you have a small group. And have them just come up and try to arrange them in the category that they belong to. And once that's done, give them another 5 minutes to just walk around and look at them. So if you need to space them out on one side of the wall, arrival on the opposite end of the wall, to playground on the opposite end of the wall, hand washing, meals, and so on, that's fine. Have them arranged where they can take pictures. and then they're going to go home with different ideas on different transitions. If you have time, then you can read a couple of them and just walk around and just comment on what you see that they have posted. But encourage them to take pictures of it. Also, just go over on why it's important to plan ahead. For example, planning ahead for different translations might include you taking a book with you, taking a deck of cards with you, or depending on how long the wait, waiting outside the bathroom to go use the bathroom. That last child is going to be waiting there for a very long time. So take a coloring book or take something that is going to help you with those transitions. Using music, songs, or predictable noises, a bell, a triangle, or something like that. Timers can also help. So just go over those different transition tips. And that's it. You will just review the summary with them, go over this 2-hour training, making sure that they review and go back on what is the purpose of the schedule, guidelines for scheduling, and review the objectives. And as you review the objectives, you can use your yes and no charts or signs if you already have them. Do you feel like we went over this, number one, yes or no? And if someone says no, then you can just get their contact information and see what I can do to clarify it or make sure that you understood this objective. And any questions? No questions? Yes, here and there, depending on your time. And the presentation on the hub, the trainers hub, has already the QR code for the participants training survey. So download the presentation from the hub. That way you have that already in there and the resources. Do you guys have any questions about this training?
You want to start recording or keep it recording?
We can answer questions if you have any questions. I'll keep it recording.
Everything else will be in the hub, right? Like the timing
Yes.
and all that stuff. Like how for each area, each section kind of keep.
Yes, also the time is included on the slides.
Okay.
And so it's important that you print out the whole entire, I recommend printing up the entire presenter's notes style in the PDF. That way you can get all the presenter notes, unless you're able to do presenter view when you are presenting it. But then that kind of limits you to stand right there next to the computer and not walk around and walk the room.
The only question I had was about the printed item 36 and 37. So do I print enough for all the participants?
You can print, I will probably print about maybe 10 copies of each just to have for you. They're not taking that with them.
Right, but if I did, what if I did like you said for the handout, put 36 on one side, 37 on the other side?
The thing is that you might have the scale part on one side and on the back, the notes for clarification for that item.
Oh, okay. And you said do like 10 of those?
Yes, just in case you have 10 participants, but if you have 20, they can be partner up.
Gotcha.
Okay, thank you for attending, and I will I will submit this video to be uploaded to the hub.